Hello, everybody. It's Cindy Ingram. Welcome back to the Art and Self podcast. And I am so excited to be joining you again after a little bit of a break. So, as a reminder, I have a new format that is a little bit more low key. And so today I'm excited to invite a guest, Melissa Cox, to the podcast. And we are going to talk about a work of art that I picked for us that is really interesting. And I'm a little disheveled today. So if I sound a little bit off kilter, I will be re-kiltered if that's a thing, once the artwork is on the screen, because that is always my thing that grounds me. So hi, Beth Joy is watching on Facebook. So if you want to talk along with us about the artwork, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, your comments will show up for us too. So we would love to hear your thoughts on the artwork as well. So let's pull up Melissa and go for it. Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I love to be here.
Okay, so before we start, can you introduce yourselves for our listeners?
Hi, I'm Melissa Cox. I coach ADHD people. I also am a fiber artist, and I do genuinely love art. So I was super excited when you asked me when you put a call out to talk about art.
Yay! Awesome. Well, yeah. Well, we have only just recently met in a business mastermind that we're in together, and so I'm excited. This is our first time to really get to talk to each other. And I didn't know you're a fiber artist. What kind of art do you make? What kind of fiber art?
I make dolls primarily right now, like poppets, which are like magical dolls. And I've also made fandom dolls a lot before. Sherlock Holmes and John Watson and T'Pring from Star Trek. Those are some of my favorites.
Wonderful. Do you make them and sell them, or do you just make them?
Oh, no, yeah, okay. I do it all commission based. So, because I it's basically like whatever the person wants them to be. I've also made them as replicas of people. Basically like as a magical avatar of like what you want to embody. That's kind of the idea.
Wonderful. Oh, that's exciting. I can't wait to explore more of those. And maybe commission something, because I have some children and adults in my house that have a lot of fandoms.
Yeah, I've done them for children too, like the doll of who that child believes themselves to be inside. And so it's wonderful. Like an outward manifestation of them.
Oh, I love that. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Oh, my daughter would love that. Because I think her internal self is Athena.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like a badass warrior type person. She's like really smart, but she's always making like weapons out of, paper towel tubes and things like that. But because Athena was a goddess of wisdom, but she was also pretty badass.
She's also a badass.
Yeah. So cool. Do you have a link to your website in case people are interested in checking it out?
I don't right now. Okay. I'm like, I will say like my group on Facebook is called Living with Disaster. And that is very indicative of who I am as a person. So I'll try to get the link to put in the comments later.
Sweet. Yeah. And we'll add that onto the podcast show notes and everything too. But I was like, oh, this is for my own edification in this moment. So awesome. And Beth Joy in the comments says your dolls are badass. So that's amazing. Okay. So let's look at some art together. So I usually don't tell, when I'm teaching works of art, I don't usually tell the title. Okay. However, I am going to tell the title today so that our podcast listeners can look it up if they want to look it up. If they're watching on video, of course, they'll be able to see the artwork. So if you're listening, you can head over to YouTube or Facebook and find the image. But I try not to have the title be too much of the interpretation. So let's, just as a reminder, kind of focus the interpretation on the image rather than the title. Okay. What button do we push to do this? Okay. There we go. Got it. Oh, I never clicked go live on Instagram. That's all right. We'll go live now. That's fine. They delete it after they're done anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So this is Coping by Nicole Eisenman, who is a really awesome artist. But I've always really loved this one, and I've wanted to talk about this one with people for a long time, but I never actually have. So here we are. So what is drawing your attention first? What do you think is going on here?
So it reminds me of the molasses flood in Boston. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
No, I
don't. Okay. The Great Molasses Flood. It was like in the 1800s, and Boston, I believe it was Boston, I'm pretty sure. There's like a couple of podcasts that have talked about it, like What You Missed in History, and yeah, so there was a tanker full of molasses at and it so before OSHA existed, this is one of the reasons why stuff like OSHA exists, because the tank was not kept up well enough, and it was done cheaply, and they weren't keeping up with it. So this tanker full of boiling hot molasses bursts and floods downtown Boston, and people drowned in it, people died, people burned, boiled alive. Pretty horrific. So that's where my brain goes.
I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm like, all these people are dying in a boiling.
No, it doesn't look like that. I think it's like the just the way they're wading through this whatever is down there.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that. My brain, of course, is always like, how do things work? And so I'm imagining the cleanup, and
they say like on hot days you can still smell molasses in certain parts of the city.
Wow, that's wild.
It took forever to clean up.
I don't love it.
Yeah, but it's fascinating, right? Like we can love that it's fascinating.
Right. Thank you.
And that also we have OSHA now.
Yeah. Indeed. All right. So we have Amy joining us. Hi, Amy. Amy is one of my real life IRL friends. Okay. So that makes me think that then they're walking through like this sludgy molasses, and that would be very challenging.
Difficult.
Every step would be very hard.
Yeah, and like so obviously you don't want it to be boiling hot, but then if it's not, it's so thick and syrupy. Yeah. But it also sort of reminds me of hay, weirdly, like I guess like the swishiness of is that a word? Swishiness of like the whatever it is.
Yeah, I can see that, because you can kind of see the brush strokes, and they do. Yeah. They kind of remind me of like Monet's brushwork. You can kind of see his thick brush, and hay. I naturally go there.
Also, why is there a mummy? Like
yeah. Why? What do you think?
Is it supposed to be a mummy? I don't know. Is it somebody in bandages? Is it a shirt? It's like on their head.
Are they one of the people who got boiled by the molasses, but then they survived? But then why would they go back into the molasses?
I don't. People make a lot of choices about things that they think they deserve, and like sometimes we go back to the boiling hot molasses because we just feel like that's where we need to be. It's where we're comfortable.
That was a deep message right there. That's calling some people out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That really is, because if they are in bandages, chances are they're going to be in some sort of pain, and then they're
just choosing to walk through this mess.
Yeah. And they don't have to walk through this mess, because if you look in the distance,
Yeah, it's clear.
It's clear. It's not like the entire world is this
Yeah.
sludge.
Presumably you could walk far enough around.
Yeah. So everyone here is choosing to go through the hard thing.
Yeah. And then also you have like the different styles of buildings is like, as I start looking at like the background, is that like an office building in the background to the right?
Yeah, that's what I think I can use. Oh, I can show my mouse over here. Are you talking about this one right here?
Yeah.
Or yeah. Because we have this like kind of more traditional building, and then we have this house, and then we have it's like a more modern looking space, an office building or like an apartment complex. So they've got little balconies, maybe, or windows. That was my initial, because when you said 1800s, I was like, okay, is this the 1800s? But then I saw that building and I'm like, nope, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's clearly like there's like a mixture of time, right? It's like there's mixing people from different ages too, because the styles of clothing on some of the people are much older than others.
Yeah. It is. And then some people are not wearing clothes at all.
Yeah, that's true.
But like these people are just kind of hanging out. They look like, I don't know why they giving 80s vibes to me, but then this guy's giving off like a
1930s, 20s.
French, or something. But then he's holding like a
Is he holding one of those? Cup. Yeah, I was gonna say like one of those little paper coffee cups that you get at all of the downtown kiosks.
Yeah.
And then dude over to the right, in the foreground, I don't know, he just looks like a Sartre wannabe or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he's just, and then it's striking is like they're all of the emotions of everyone in the front. And Cheryl in the comments, hi Cheryl, hi Tony. She noticed that most of the people in the front appear to be men.
Yeah.
But then in the back,
they're there. There's women back there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like in a little stall, maybe in one of the in the older building, the brick building to the left behind a French dude.
Oh, like this here?
Yeah, I feel like that might be some women or a couple selling, I don't know, fruit, baked goods, something.
Yeah, there's so many people. It's like, who do you even focus on? Because now I'm like, there's a person with a bike, there's a cat with a bird on its head, there's a person holding a dog, like there's like a little kid that looks like he's dressed up like a cop. I don't know.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot. So what do you think like the overall
theme
meaning is here? Yeah, like is there like one like interpretation or meaning that you're getting from this?
I mean, I think what I'm seeing is that like we all kind of carry our own mess with us. Like we all kind of carry whatever we have already through the day and through the street. And I don't know. Yeah, like we're all just kind of getting through it together, and like none of the people are looking at each other.
Yeah.
You know, they are all focused on what's ahead of them or downward. None of them are looking at other people. It's completely internal.
And so that like sludgy molasses is like maybe representing that that
internal struggle, like
struggle
just
that we
to
all carry.
Get through.
Yeah. I'm hearing an echo of myself back now. Oh, it went away. Good. Okay. How does this relate to your work as a coach?
I mean, I think, right, like, I don't know if that's intentionally why you picked that one, but like picked this piece, but it definitely feels like it relates. Because yeah, like we all kind of carry like baggage with us, and like we have to choose whether we want to keep carrying it or if we want to set it down. And for me, a lot of that baggage is like, what did the neurotypical world teach me I was supposed to be doing, and which things are actually serving me and which things do I need to like throw away because they are of no use to me and they just make me feel shame and guilt.
Yeah. Do you have an example of what one of those things are or is?
Like, so often it's like really little shit. It's like really little stuff where like, okay, so a lot of us grew up with boomer parents, right? Who grew up with this like idealized fantasy of what a home is supposed to be. It's supposed to be so that you can walk in and have guests and show off your home to your guests, right? It's almost more for the people who come into your home than it is for the people living in it to an extent. And so like there are just these little things that I think a lot of them didn't even, it was just what it was. It wasn't done to do it differently. So in my front room, like in my foyer, whatever, I have a big, ugly, like black shoe rack. And it's like a shoe rack for like 20 shoes, like 20 slots. It is not aesthetic at all. I tried my best because I love an aesthetic. I really do. I love it. But I could not find one that served functionally the thing that I needed. Because you know what? Like I fought long enough to try to get my children to put their shoes in other places after they came in the door. It doesn't happen. And so like, why am I fighting this pointless fight, wasting my energy, wasting my time? Like, why don't I just put the shoe rack there, accept that that part is not the aesthetic part of my house, and just like let it be what it is, like move with the easier, softer way.
Yes, get out of the molasses and just allow
allow it to exist.
Yeah. We have this, I've had that same thing happen in my house. Is like once I figured out I was neurodiverse, I was like just walking around my house going, where are the trouble areas? And we have this bin in our kitchen that's like, when we don't know what to do with something and we don't have the time or energy to put it away, we just put it in the bin. And then eventually the bin gets overflowing and I have to clear it out. But at least it gets it off the countertop and makes the countertop functional.
It's like getting it, like one of the other things I do is I'll often like, to circumvent my sort of obsession with once I start a task, I have to finish the task. And that's why I tend to avoid tasks, right? Because I know that I don't have 2 hours to deep clean the bathroom right now. So I'll just avoid it entirely. And then I avoid it for like 2 months. And that's not helpful either. So to get around stuff like that, like years ago, I just started saying like I gave myself permission to just, okay, as I walk through the house, I'm going to pick up anything that I see and know where it goes. I'm just going to carry it with me. And once I get close to the place that it's supposed to be, I'm going to toss it in that room. And you know what? It's that much closer to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. With me, it would probably be like, eventually I'd be like, why am I holding this thing? And then I would just put it down wherever I'm at. But yeah, it's like, it maybe moved.
It's like getting closer
where it's supposed to go.
Yes. I'm not aiming for perfection. I am aiming for progress.
Yeah. Okay. So I love it. Now let's look back at the artwork. Anything else striking you about what's happening in here? Is there one particular person that is drawing your attention, or?
I mean, I definitely keep getting drawn back to like the dude in the middle in the bowler hat. I don't know why, aside from just the fact that he is in the center. But I'm drawn to him versus the other guy in the center who's sort of slouching away. I think because the guy slouching away is disengaging on purpose, like is looking down and moving away from people, versus the guy in the bowler hat is looking upward and almost like is like the closest one that comes to looking at a person. Like, it's possible that he could be looking at the guy in the bandages or the guy in the forefront.
And he, too, also feels like, of everybody in the foreground anyway, he feels the most like he doesn't really care about what's happening. He feels like, yeah, I'm just walking through this. It's fine. Like, he doesn't have that, like, like this one has like despair. This one has like, I don't know, boredom,
despondency.
It's almost like each one is could be like assigned a different emotion. They all have a different emotion, but he is really more
sort of neutral.
Yeah. And he's wearing, I thought it was just regular pants or being pulled down, but like, are they like rubber pants?
You know, I suppose that's possible. Yeah, I thought it was just like regular, you know, pants with suspenders, but it could be rubber pants.
Yeah, because like I've seen those in, I guess.
Yeah, like waders.
Plumbers. And
and if I grew up near swamps, people had those pretty frequently if they went out.
So he's like, well, maybe a little bit more prepared to go through. But then he's sticking his arm in it, so I don't know about that. Okay. So
maybe he's like reaching down to feel, like, because he is unaffected. Maybe he's just reaching down to feel what it's like for the people who are more affected by it. It's like he wants to remind himself.
I like that.
When you are like immersed in something but not affected by it, you still want to have empathy for those around you.
So I got lost in staring at him. I'm just like, it's fascinating actually, like this, looking at this painting, because I've always been like, I want to use this sometime. But now that it's actually up, it's like, wow, this one is maybe a little bit harder to
dissect.
It's hard. It's both hard and easy, because it's almost like it feels like it's a little bit too easy, but also there's so much going on that you're like, well, that I feel like I don't
like
even
where
know
do you start
to go with it. So how do we think this, because to me it looks like it might be a river, or like it's flowing, because if it looks like it's flowing kind of in the direction from our direction back, because of when I look at this, the lines of it, and this car looks
it's
like
going
it's kind
swoosh
of
forward
away, and then it kind of goes into like a river shape in the back. Like, where is it coming from and where is it going?
Where do you come from? Where do you go? Where do you come from?
Thank you. I'm going to be thinking that all day now.
Just gave you an earworm. That's also okay. So because my brain makes connections, right? Like that also makes me think of, like, what if it's literally just a muddy river? Like, what if like it literally is just a river? Because I don't know if you've watched like the TikToks and stuff going around about the flooding in Dubai. But it's ridiculous. It's like because it's just like there's so much flooding, like there's so much water. People like pulling like just buckets of water off of their balconies because like they never get that much water, so it's not like the buildings aren't designed to like release that much at one time.
Yeah, and so it has been going on for a
Yeah,
while.
it was like a week or two. I don't know if it's still happening. I need to check.
Yeah, so they had to just kind of go about their life because
Yeah, it's just people kind of
you need
like
food
dealing with it.
Yeah.
Using little kayaks to get down the street. It like part of the things felt really familiar because I grew up in South Mississippi, and the year that I graduated high school was when Hurricane Katrina happened.
Oh.
And I know a lot of people think about like Hurricane Katrina and New Orleans, and yes, New Orleans was devastated by it. Also, though, the actual storm hit the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and the Gulf Coast of Alabama. And so the actual storm itself, like flooding is mostly what affected New Orleans because of the levees, and poor infrastructure being kept up. But the storm water and the winds are mostly what affected the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of just walked in the water for a while, for a couple days there, and hoped that we didn't meet snakes or other things.
Terrifying. Though that I think that can be used kind of as a metaphor too, for life, is like we just sometimes have to walk through the water and look out for snakes.
Just kind of watch where you step occasionally.
Yeah. And like it's not something that sometimes it's not something that you necessarily need to or can fix. You just kind of have to get through it at the moment and know that it's going to get better.
Yep.
And so I can kind of feel that with some of these people, like the guy in the front with the coffee. He's just like, got my
he's
coffee.
going about his day.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate New Yorker is just like, I don't know, it's just the same shit, different day.
Yeah, it's like here we are again.
He looks so dead though. Like that guy specifically just looks like his eyes, he's lost his entire soul. He's dead inside. He's really pale.
Yeah. Like what if he is dead?
Maybe. What if it's the river Styx?
Ooh. And they're all dead. And he's the, what is it? Charon, or is that
the fairy?
I'm mixing up my I was like, or am I mixing up my mythologies? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name. But Chiron, the ferryman.
Yeah. So I am spending a lot of time looking at what I thought was him, but now I think might be her. And the just sadness that I'm getting from her. Like she just feels so, or that kind of. And I just feel like I can't stop looking at her.
Just worn down.
Yeah. Something terrible has happened, or she's had to walk through this like for a long time, or she lost. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think she lost anyone. I think it's really like an internal thing, not like a external thing that happened.
It's just like this, I don't know. It's so the guy in the foreground feels like they're dead inside and they've accepted their fate. But that person feels like it's like there's still hope, because if you have hope, then you're even more sad.
Yeah.
Because you think it could be different, but you have no idea how. Like how to get there.
Yes.
You think you are uniquely like despairing in the universe.
Yes. I know exactly how that feels. Like that is so true. And it feels so isolating and so alone, because you feel like you're the only one, and you like look around and everybody's fine. But
Yeah, but they're also actively turning away from everyone. And
yeah.
that's the thing, is they are like, they feel like, maybe they feel like they are completely alone because they have made themselves alone.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's like a spiral that goes down. Like the
Yeah.
more hopeless you feel, or
Yeah.
well, she has hope, but it's like that's
Yeah.
the
But when
more
you
you
just get,
pull away.
yeah, like you just get stuck in those loops and you don't know how to do anything differently because you don't, it's like there's hope that, it's like wishing, right? Like you
Yeah.
wish that it were better, but you don't
Yeah.
have enough hope because you haven't maybe seen the person who, this is like definitely a personal thing of like, if I hadn't seen the people doing the things who actually I felt like I could connect with, then
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get there from here.
Yeah. Well, and you need to see like, um, and that's why like representation and everything is so important. Is like you have
Hmm.
to be able to see that things are possible.
Yeah.
My friend had a story of she had she got pregnant when she was in high school,
Hmm.
and she loves her kid obviously, but like at the time she was like everything that was on TV, like she said she remembers watching Gilmore Girls, and Gilmore Girls, like I don't watch Gilmore Girls, but apparently she had a teenage pregnancy
Yeah.
too, and like she said she was like watching that, and like that like abortion was never even ever talked about as even an option, as even something to consider. And so she didn't see like what all of the other possibilities were, and didn't see like people like her making different decisions. And so she
Yeah.
just kind of made the decision she thought, that was kind of
Was
expected of
available
her.
to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true for me. Like when I first realized that I was neurodiverse, it was just like I didn't know that it was possible to like have the shoe rack at the door and
Right.
the bin. It was like I didn't know because I didn't see people doing that, and now I'm like surrounded by neurodiverse people like making all their accommodations, and I'm like, oh, I see. Like this is
Yeah.
possible. It's possible to do things another way, but I just didn't know before. Because anytime
Like
I would try to reach out, it like I could people would be like, oh, everybody's like that, or
yeah. They're
it
just
was
so dismissive sometimes, especially if the
right.
people have not been through very similar struggles. Like even if the trappings are a little different, like
Yeah.
the core struggle needs to be really similar so that there can be an understanding of like, oh, I have also done that and this is how I got through. And whether that works for you or not, you can at least see that like, okay, well, this person figured it out. That means maybe there's another way to figure it out.
Yeah. We were talking last night, and I have a program called Art Church, and we look at the art of Frida Kahlo, and we were analyzing a quote by her, and from her diary, and it was, see if I can pull it out of my head. Um, all of this madness, if I ask it of you, there would be only confusion. We interpreted it several different ways. But one of the interpretations was like, my interpretation was like, if I show you like my full internal self, like it's going to overwhelm me and be too much. But one of the other interpretations was like, I've gone through something super traumatic, life changing. And then I, try to talk about it with someone else, and they don't have any like frame of reference or
Yeah.
context for that. And so they don't know what to say. And so like that, like disconnection gets even bigger. Like they want to know what to say and they want to help, but
Yeah.
then they don't know what to say. And so,
Yeah,
um,
people love to be able to show up for you if they're able. I
yeah,
think most people want to help because it makes us feel good to help. It like releases
yeah,
the happy chemicals in our brains when we help somebody and we feel like we have helped them. But if we don't have a shared experience or a similar background or something to connect us, it's really hard to, like, we can have as much empathy as we want, but it's not, I don't know, or we can have sympathy, but it's really hard to have empathy when we haven't had the same experience.
Yeah. And so it leads to, I think, situations like this figure here where, you know, something might have happened and then she maybe has tried and it is at this point of like not knowing what to do next. Despair, anguish.
Where sometimes it just feels so hard to keep trying. And it's like you don't want to stop completely. It's not like you want to die necessarily, but you also don't know how to keep going and trying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really want to know, like, because so she's walking this, you know, kind of towards us. And I wonder, it doesn't seem like there's an end. It seems like this river, like she's walking upstream of this river that is not going to end.
You know, that's a good point. Like so the people who are specifically walking upstream are the guy who seems unaffected completely, and this person who is like just full of despair, and they're going different directions.
And now I'm going to pull in the title, which sometimes I like to pull it in.
Yeah.
But it's called Coping, and it's, if we look at, you know, these two people, or if we look at all of these people through the lens of coping, like everybody is going through the same problem. Ooh, I wonder when this was painted.
Yeah.
Because now I'm like, is this about COVID?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Or any of the other life-changing events that have happened like in our adulthood.
Yeah, we've had a lot, haven't we?
We've had quite a number.
Yeah. Oh, 2008. So, no, this is a while ago. But I'm sure. Well, even 2008, that was like when the market crashed.
Yep. That was when the market crashed. That was also when Obama was elected, and like America really started showing their ass for like just the sort of like undercurrent of racism that we knew, but like became more like in our faces.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm suddenly have a memory that this artist actually might be French. I'm wondering if she's French American now. I'm going to look this up too.
Oh, actually, also was that
Brooklyn. She lives in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if it was French, there were also riots in France in like 2005. There was like a lot of riots over immigration and all sorts of stuff.
I don't know where I got that she was French, because it doesn't say anything about that. I don't know. She was born in France. Okay. She just lives in Brooklyn. But probably still connected back with her homeland.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we look at it through the lens of coping, I think like everyone in this painting is coping in a different way with the sludge. Like he's just kind of maybe gotten to the place where he's immune to it. You know, she's clearly just taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
He's bandaging him, or they're bandaging themselves up and maybe trying to.
Yeah, like trying to protect themselves, but not in a sustainable way, because those bandages are just going to get wet again. It's a very like surface surface level protection.
Yeah, not as useful as this guy's waiters.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think's going on with the cat and the bird on his head?
That one is kind of funny. It's right because like the bird could just fly. The bird's like hopping a ride on this poor cat that's like swimming through the muck.
And then that cat is like a predator of a bird.
Yeah. And the bird's just sort of like na 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 na.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I thought that like maybe the cat was helping the bird, but no, maybe the bird is taunting the cat.
I don't know.
Oh.
Like maybe the cat is trying to wade through all of this so that they can get to a place where they can jump up at the bird.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't even looked at the time once. Wait, have we been talking for over an hour?
Not quite an hour.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We started at 12:30. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. I was like, I didn't feel like it was that long. Okay, sorry. I thought time was flying. Okay. What do you think of the clouds?
They are confusing, right? Like they're going into buildings. They're like it almost looks like it's going into the middle of a building over on the right side. And I mean they're brown, but the water is brown. So it's that sort of cycle of it's just going to keep going. Like the muck is just going to keep on cycling.
Yeah, so it's not just gonna flow away. It's just gonna keep recycling itself back into.
And it's not gonna clear up either because like the clouds are brown with the mucky water. They're not clear blue water yet.
Oh. I like how you said yet though.
Yeah.
That we have like
that hopefully
clear. Yeah. I'm curious about the two. Like, there's just a bunch of like spectators happening. You know, there's the person in the window.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
Here, there's a group of people just drinking beers at tables.
Yeah,
they're choosing to sit out in it instead of being inside the building.
They're watching. It's like entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it reminds me. So we went on like my family took a trip to go see the eclipse, right? And we live in Georgia, and we went to visit friends in Missouri and see the eclipse. And so getting there was, I mean, it was a long trip, but it was fine. Getting back, because absolutely every single person who traveled for the eclipse was like, I want to get home now, because it happened on Monday. So it's like, you have to get back to work. So the traveling back was just standstill on these back country roads. And there were people at several houses that we passed that were like these clearly like middle of nowhere highway roads. And people are just sitting on their porch, like watching us pass. And I'm like, yep, sure, do that. I'm sure it's more entertainment than you have had in like weeks at least. Just watching cars, a million cars go 10 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. That's.
Sometimes you just gotta go watch the nonsense.
Yeah. I'm wondering. I'm kind of like, okay, so if they're watching all of these people, I wonder, are they.
Maybe they're just glad to not be in it right then.
Yeah.
They're just like really glad to be out of it for right now.
Yeah, it's like a moment of break. It's like a reprieve.
And
maybe they'll have to get out in there to to get home or whatever. But right now, they're
taking a breath.
a good moment.
Yeah. Which is curious, right? Because if like those people have chosen to step away and take a break, and maybe that's their part of coping, but maybe but like again, the guy in the center has chosen to keep going with tools. Like he has chosen, like, I want to go through this, but I can't just do it. Like, I don't want to just do it the way that everybody else is doing it. So how can I make this easier?
I love that. I mean, one of his tools is smoking.
I mean, you know, like, you got to cope however you're going to cope.
Yeah, you got to do it. What you got to do.
It's all about, like, harm reduction sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's still going to be really hard for him, right? Because he's wearing waders, and he still has to physically walk through it. That's still a lot of weight that he's pushing against, but he's not getting, like, wet and sticky and grimy at the same time. It's like, so because I talk to a lot of neurodivergent people, like, a lot of times, like, it's what is so overwhelming in the moment, and what can you do just to take the volume down a tiny bit?
Yes.
Like, if you have, like, a ton of stuff going on in your house, there's noise everywhere, and you're trying to do the dishes, and you're trying to listen to a child talk to you about a video game that they have told you all of the details of 5 million times, and you very much want to give them your attention because you love them and adore them and want them to know that they are seen and heard, and you feel like you're about to scream.
Yeah.
Oh, and also you have to pee.
And you're hungry.
Also, so what can you do first? You go pee. You go and you say, just a minute, I gotta go pee, I'll be right back. So you go pee, you take, like, a breath. As you are in the bathroom, you lock the door. You don't leave the door open. And then you just take a breath. Like, you're allowed to take a breath. And then you go back out, and then you take care of the next thing on the list of things that are overwhelming your body and your brain, right? Yeah. It's like, it doesn't fix everything. It just makes it a little bit more manageable.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I really, I guess I could say that there was some grief involved in it, but when I realized that I was autistic, and it was a relief in that, I was like, oh, this explains everything. But then there was a moment of, I've been trying to fix things my whole life, and now this isn't something I could fix. Yeah. And that I always will be walking through this sludge. Yeah. Like, the sludge will always be there. And now I can, like, now the idea is, like, how do I make walking through the sludge easier and give myself the tools to walk through the sludge and, like, take the breaks and, you know, all of that, and stop pushing through quite so hard as I usually did. But, like, there was this moment of, like, oh, this is always going to be a thing that I deal with forever.
And so, like, that for me comes back to, like, my core philosophy of, like, okay, so I was looking at this conversation earlier today on Facebook, and somebody asked, like, if we think that everybody in the world is actually neurodivergent. I absolutely do not think that.
No.
Yeah. But they were starting a conversation, whatever. It went a different direction, and that's fine. But it made me think of, like, the fact that we are not all neurodivergent, but I think that a lot of the ways that people who have disabilities, neurodivergent people included, the way that we have to go through life and the way that we have to deal with life can be tremendously helpful to every single human being, because for me, it requires that we give ourselves a lot of grace, a lot of compassion, and not always assume that we are the wrong person, like that we are broken.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that we're not going to be able to do things the way that other people are doing them. And acceptance, like radical acceptance and radical compassion, are huge for me.
Yeah, and it's like, and permission too, because it's like,
Yeah.
if someone sees us like leave a party early, or whatever it is, they might realize like, oh, you can do that. you can leave when
Right?
you're, I have a friend who always like, she's just like, her whole family, they'll just get up and leave. And every time I'm like, oh, what? You can just get up and leave without like waiting until the right moment to say goodbye, and like waiting 2 hours past when you actually wanted to leave. She just gets up and she's like, time to go, y'all. And then they just get in the car and drive away. And I'm like, that is so freeing to even, I mean, I still can't do that as well as she can, but
it just takes practice too, because it's like, it's just pushing past that initial discomfort. That's really what it is. And practicing that over and over again in like the tiniest ways that you can. Of like, how can I take back my own energy right now and say, I'm going to do what works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's learned that when she does that, we don't stop being her friend. We don't talk bad about her. We're like, most of us are just like, that's just what she does. So we just, I know, we're like, that's brilliant. And why didn't I think that you could do that?
It's like that picture that went around years ago of the banner for a party, and it's like, please leave by 9.
Yes.
It's just like, why can't we just all be explicit about our boundaries and our needs?
Yes. Yes. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know, this piece also makes me just think of what is it, the Kafka quote, where it's like, every unhappy family is unhappy in their own ways. In their own special ways. Like, every happy family is the same, and every unhappy family is unhappy in their own ways. But that's the trick, is that they're not, like, they are, but they aren't. It's that they think that they are. Like, they think that they're so special and unique. We always think that our problems are so individual to us that they are not possibly like solvable or changeable. And maybe we haven't met the people that we need to in order to figure out how to change them, but that doesn't mean that we are the only people who experience that issue.
Yeah, and I think that's really the importance of community. Because in my program, the Art Connection Circle, we had someone this last round who, she was kind of going through some stuff. And one of the things she realized when she came in is that like other people were going through some similar stuff as her. And she was just like, wait, what? I'm not alone in this. Like, this is not like, and I put her, like, we do some like group work every now and then or whatever, and I'll go into the Zoom breakout rooms, and like her and another person in the group were like, we're in a room together, and they came back, and it was like one. I'm trying not to give like personal information. So now I'm like, I've got myself stuck in a rut. But basically, like, you see yourself through someone else's eyes.
Yeah,
and then
through their experience.
And then you see yourself in them, but then and then it helps you see your problems through a new lens. That they're
like,
solvable, or there's other options, or other interpretations.
Like, whenever I'm experiencing something that I don't know how to walk through, I need a person that I trust and I have some kind of established relationship with. And I mean, that has been a therapist before, because generally, like, a therapist is, going to be there and non-judgmental and not involved in the situation. Absolutely cannot be a person who's involved in the situation. But like, I need a person there just to, especially for me, like, I have to verbally process. I need to say it out loud and then have them mirror that back to me and say what it is that I'm saying, right? Because sometimes even just saying it in the first place like helps me hear myself, and I'm like, wow, that is ridiculous. Like, why am I saying that? Like, that's ridiculous. I would never say that to another person. I would never be that uncompassionate to another human being. So why am I doing it to myself?
Yeah, that is so important. Do you do, because I always love when my coaches, and I do it with people I coach too, is I have voice message access. And I often I'll get on there and start leaving a message. And then by the end, I'm like, I don't actually need anything. I've solved it all just by
absolutely.
Talking it.
Yeah.
There's a coaching book I read, and now I can't remember what the book was or the guy's name, but it'll come to me in like 5 hours. But he was like, they did a study that you could talk to a lamppost for an hour. I think they did a study, or was it you could talk to a lamppost for an hour, and you're gonna have personal growth and solve some of your problems. Like you just the idea of verbalizing and then putting them into a different language, like
it's I think it's also like it comes down to like surrendering that you don't know the answer to. Like for me, it's that I tried to fix it in my own head and it did not work. So I need to say it out loud and like hear it. There's just something completely, I'm sure it's neurological, like hearing it outside of your body is completely different.
And I think that's why my like the work that I do with art and like looking at art and like talking about self-development through the lens of looking at art is so powerful, because it like externalizes your internal world. And so it makes it a little bit less like personal, a little bit less scary to talk about, a little bit, it's like you're seeing it outside of yourself. And so then you can kind of look at it through a not so cloudy, foggy, muddy, molassesy lens. Tried to connect the artwork there for a minute. We'll make it clear.
Yeah, I mean, I've been heavily involved in like the fan fiction communities for years, and the way that people like, you can, if you don't know anything about fan fiction, you can just assume it's like weird people on the internet writing about their favorite characters, which it kind of can be, but also it's like I have this character that I can put my experience through, and I can work through my own experience in a way that I wish it could happen, or I wish it would have happened. And it's not me, so it makes it a little easier. It's this other character. So I get to say what they would do. It's just separated enough.
I've never thought about fan fiction in that way. I love that. I always, anytime I think of fan fiction, is there was a girl I grew up with, and she used to write Jonathan Taylor Thomas fan fiction.
I love that.
And we judged her so hard, but now I'm just
believe it.
That's delightful that she does.
I mean,
that.
I
feel bad for her now that we judged her so hard.
But also, like, all teenagers are dickbags at some point.
True.
And
that's true.
I think, like, I mean, I know I have been. Like, I know that I was a terrible person in years past and judged people about stuff that I never should have. But, we admit that we're wrong, and we grow, and we try to make amends if we can, and to spread, like, more compassion and more, like, acceptance in the places that we go now.
Yeah, I love that. That's good. I'm always telling my daughter she judges her past self so harshly, and she's like, "Oh, that was so cringe."
Don't go.
Like, you were like a little kid. You were little. You were like fifth grader.
You are a different human being.
Yeah,
it's like the 50-year study that they did for, I believe it was like for a life insurance company. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
It was like a 50 or 60-year study, and they determined at the end of it that like people, their personalities had completely changed basically. Like from when they started, when they were like in their early 20s to when they were retired, they had basically become completely different people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I found that true. Like I have a group of friends, or we've been friends for, I always have to do it by the age of my daughter, 14 years now.
Yeah.
And I realized, like in the last few years, I was like, we are different people than we were when we started being friends. And I was like, and some of us are like, we were kind of like still making jokes as if, like one person, she used to always do pranks, but she like hasn't done pranks in like 5 years, but she's still like the one who does pranks. And then finally we were like, wait, she doesn't do that anymore. We don't have to hide our phone from her anymore. Like she's not going to get on our phones and do something weird. So it's just like, it's hard. And I think that's why friendships, like they grow apart and then they grow together.
Yeah.
Because it's like you change so much.
Yeah, and you have to like make room for people to change. And sometimes there's been so much change that it's hard to continue with the same level of intimacy that you maybe once had. And that's definitely a grief process of, I wish that I still had the same level of intimacy with this friend, but I don't. And I have to accept that this new version of who we are together is going to be different. And it doesn't mean it's going to be bad, but it's going to be different.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I think we probably
We've ambled.
I know.
We've ambled backward and forward.
I love it. I'm like, I think we kind of a little bit of a slow start because the artwork was a little bit overwhelming, but now I'm like,
yeah, there's just a lot going on.
There's just a lot. And I still feel like we could further because we haven't talked about the naked woman at all.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about that.
I don't either. I keep going to her and I'm like, I don't know.
In order to deal with everything, you just lay yourself bare to all who will listen.
Oh, I love it. You're making some good connections. Fantastic. Okay. Anything left to say that you feel like you just, that like is on you want to say before we wrap up? Anything you feel?
I think it just genuinely bugs me that there's like a corporate office building in the background and the rest of I get it, but also it bugs me. It's just like, it's messing up my flow, It's just, I don't like it there. Just knock it down.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
Like, let the English, like, town be normal again.
Indeed. I just now realized it makes me, there's an artwork I have hanging, or a print of an artwork I have hanging in my hall out there of a town flooded with water with sharks in it. And I was like, oh, this looks just like that one. I didn't just now made that connection. So anyhow, all right. So before, let's see, I'll click this picture. Which one is it? This one? No, this one. How can people get in touch with you if they want to like follow you or learn more about your dolls and your coaching?
So I am on Facebook at Melissa Cox, and also my my art page, which I am trying to keep up better, is Living with Disaster, the page. And then I also have a support group called Living with Disaster. So a page and a group of the same name. And you can find me on Instagram at living_with_disaster. And that is where I post. Instagram and Facebook are mostly where I post my pictures and writings, and where you can follow me if you want to work with me.
Excellent. I will put all of those links into the show notes, which is on cindyingram.com. So anybody listening or watching can, once I get that up, you can find that there. But thank you so very much for talking with me today. It was
delightful.
Yeah, it really was. I love talking about art, and I feel much more regulated than I was an hour ago. So
yay!
Art does that to me. It's great. All right. Thank you again. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.